That line doesn't summarize the plot, it opens a crack. What does it mean to inhabit a body trained for violence and at the same time preserve it as intimate territory? Eve Macarro, in the skin of the ballerina who grows up in John Wick's shadowy circle, is less an assassin who learned lethal steps and more a choreographer of herself. Each gesture carries the weight of memory. When she asks Wick, "How do I start doing what you do?" she still believes there's a beginning, that there's a door she can choose to walk through. John responds without cruelty, but with that clinical look of someone who recognizes symptoms the other is still trying to deny. "Looks like you already have." "There is no beginning, Eve. You've already crossed over. The fall has already started." 12 years at the Ruska Roma transformed that body into an archive. The ballerina carries in her joints, in her muscles, in her muscle memory, the marks of a teaching that is simultaneously technical and moral. The body registers everything: the touch of whoever guided, the cadence of orders, the silences that educate more than words, plays that taught gracefulness but trained evasion, arabesques that elongated the body's line but prepared the fatal strike. The orphan girls entered that academy, believing they would learn ballet, and they did. But ballet here was just the wrapping. When Eve dances in the darkness, what we see isn't just skill, it's a map, where wounds were healed with discipline, where traumas were converted into precision. There's something obscene about the figure of the ballerina assassin that goes beyond violence. It's the aesthetics of violence that disturbs. The Ruska Roma doesn't just want women capable of killing, it wants women who kill with beauty, who transform massacre into choreography. The female body disciplined again, only now with blood on the tip of the slipper. To dance is, by definition, to expose the body to observation. In the John Wick universe, where visibility can mean death, this exposure is subversive. By dancing, Eve reclaims something the training aimed to erase: the singularity of human gesture. The ballerina who shoots doesn't do it just to annihilate an enemy. She writes a gesture that answers violence with her own aesthetic. Dead father, dead mother, Eve kidnapped from ordinary life and thrown into a machine that grinds up childhoods. When she finally discovers who killed her family, when she finally has a name, a face, a target, they ask her to wait. There's a truce, they explain. Delicate political relations. Order must be maintained. But Eve has already crossed an invisible threshold. People who lose everything discover a perverse freedom. The rules that organize the world of the living stop touching those already dead inside. Here emerges the choreography of revenge and its ethical limits. Revenge is circular movement. It repairs one wound with another wound. In cinema, aesthetic beauty frequently seduces the audience into admiring the technical perfection of violence. Eve executes movements of impeccable precision, and in that beauty lies an uncomfortable question. What is lost when revenge becomes performance? The answer is existential. There's an internal erosion. Each certain step distances the ballerina from less traumatic ways of living. The cult operates differently from other organizations. Winston makes it clear: they don't kill for money or strategy. They kill for pleasure, for ceremony, for sport. And here lives an irony Eve can't see. She was molded in an equally brutal system, only that system has an org chart, hierarchy, protocols. Institutionalized violence always dresses itself in legitimacy. But does trading a professional executioner for a fanatic cultist actually change anything? When Eve receives the title of Kikimora, the final test reveals the complete nature of the trap. She needs to kill someone from the Ruska Roma itself. A traitor, they say. But what matters isn't who she kills, it's what the act signifies, proving that loyalty to the institution surpasses humanity. Eve passes, kills, earns the title. But is earning this title conquering freedom or just signing the definitive contract? Kikimora. The title comes from Slavic mythology. It's a household spirit, usually feminine, lives in the house, but nobody sees, works in the shadows, causes disorder without being detected. Eve becomes exactly that, a ghostly presence. And even in her own film, John Wick invades the narrative with disproportionate weight. She's competent, gets through hordes of enemies, survives impossible situations, but the film doesn't trust her enough to let her finish her own story alone. John Wick recognizes his own reflection in her. He was also the person molded by the machine, also obeyed until the point where obedience stopped making sense, also tried to leave, tried several times, and never managed. When he says, "Looks like you already have," the tone doesn't carry encouragement. It carries lament. You're already falling, Eve. I recognize the trajectory. I've already traced it all out. And there's no ground in this fall. Wick is the fulfilled prophecy, the living legend, the Baba Yaga, but also the man who carries in his eyes the exhaustion of someone who can't stop even when he wants to. He's the warning nobody listens to because warnings only make sense before the fall. The crucial difference, Eve can still stop. John has already crossed through hundreds of bodies, already lost everything he could lose. Eve still has, perhaps precariously, a chance to choose another path. But when she descends into the dark tunnels of Hallstatt carrying a flamethrower, burning cultists in the darkness like someone clearing out pests, she transforms into exactly what destroyed her. A nightmare figure emerging from the shadows. Fire, darkness, annihilation. The flamethrower carries symbolism hard to ignore. Fire purifies, tradition says, but fire also devours indiscriminately. When John explodes the fuel tank to save Eve from her own flames, maybe he's performing a deeper rescue, preventing her from being completely consumed in that fire she herself lit. The film has self-awareness. The action sequences are choreographed with the same metric precision Eve rehearsed for years at the academy. Each shot obeys an internal count. Each blow follows the rhythm of a music only she hears. Eve fights like she dances because for her these two things have already fused completely. The body that learned Grand Jeté is the same body that learned to kill. The discipline didn't change. Only the final result changed. The image of the ballerina exposed to rain, to fire, to physical confrontation brings an unexpected insight. Vulnerability is not weakness, it's the condition of potency. By exposing her body to the elements, Eve reclaims the capacity to feel as a tool of judgment and action. When the ballerina trades the mask for a face wet with rain, we have a philosophical gesture, the choice between being idea and being flesh. The mask universalizes, the face particularizes. It's a radical ethical movement, preferring the vulnerability of the recognizable face to the safety of invisibility. Eve's tragedy isn't reduced to the violence she suffered. It's the violence she embraced. She had other options theoretically available, could have fled, tried to build a life somewhere else. But she chooses to remain, wants to process everything, Only processing within that system just means feeding the engine, means accepting that the only valid language is the language of violence. The question the film raises but doesn't answer: is it possible to destroy a structure of oppression using the tools that structure gave you? Eve was trained to kill, uses that training to avenge her family. But in doing so, she doesn't dismantle anything, just perpetuates. Becomes another gear, functioning exactly as it was designed to function. John understands this better than anyone. That's why he hesitates when Eve asks for help. That's why he tries to plant some seed of doubt. But the moment has passed. Eve has already bought the complete narrative. Already believes that honoring her father means killing whoever killed him. But freedom isn't conquered using the same chains that bound you. You just change shackles. Eve has something most characters in this universe lack: visible fragility. She cries, trembles, feels fear in a way John Wick seems to have forgotten how to feel. Ana de Armas brings a vulnerability that coexists with brutality without cancelling either. Eve doesn't want to become legend. She just wants to understand what happened to her. And here resides the ethics of the spectator. Watching a scene like hers demands self-examination. We're seduced by efficiency, by the beauty of movement. We're invited to justify the aesthetic blow with the just narrative of revenge. But mature reflection is to question that fascination. What moves me to applaud? The work functions as a moral mirror. It forces us to see where our moral judgments yield to aesthetic delight. In the end, Eve officially registers at the Continental, accepts being part of that ecosystem. She lost everything, became a weapon, executed revenge, completed the mission. And now she's alone in a tower of empty conquests. The satisfaction lasts a few seconds. The pain remains forever. Violence doesn't cure trauma. It just multiplies trauma and distributes it to more people. Maybe the film is saying something simple but devastating. There are no heroes in the John Wick universe. Only exhausted survivors dancing a choreography of death that never ends. Eve wanted to be free. But freedom in this world is just another name for the absolute solitude of someone who has nothing left to lose. Eve's dance affirms that ethical transformation begins with small daily choices, with the decision to answer in silence, to dance when they could ask you to move like a weapon. The film's merit isn't just in choreographing violence, it's in showing that even when trained to nullify life, bodies always carry a possibility of reinvention. They taught her to dance with danger. She learned to answer in silence. Eve embodies the complexity of the post-trauma subject who refuses mere repetition to compose something that belongs to her. Her dance is resistance, language, archive, and risk. Human autonomy passes through self-recognition, through the courage to prefer the face, the memory, and one's own dance. She got everything she wanted, and none of it returned what she lost.